Thank you for joining CU Bands and Fans podcast. Our podcast is brought to you by Home Grown KIO. Home Grown KIO is on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. It is a stellar show featuring the great songs that have come from bands originating in Champaign-Urbana. Listen at 107.9 on your FM dial, at 1079WKIO.com, or ask Alexa to play WKIO. Hey, this is CU Bands and Fans, Terry Brown. My co-host, Zach Widdop, is not with us for this podcast, but we are here with L.A. Fredrickson and his son, Drew Fredrickson, and we are going to talk about music and their story. So how are you guys doing?
Great.
Very good. Very good. Thanks.
Good. So, Drew, what's been happening with you? You moved. You were in the Brat Pack, the last I knew. That's not the only band that you've been with or the only history that you have in music. But after the Brat Pack, after you left the Brat Pack, you moved. So what's been going on in your life?
Yeah, I actually moved up to Oak Park area because I took a job teaching at Oak Park and River Forest High School. So I became a music teacher at the high school there, and my specialization has been actually in non-traditional musics. So I teach, in addition to band and choir, I also teach a sound production course, and I've taught a songwriting course as well. So I'm kind of focusing in more on the non-traditional music, but how 99% of us experience music outside of band, choir, orchestra. Most people don't go to band, choir, orchestra concerts all the time. They're listening through AirPods here or listening to recorded music of some kind. So that's what I teach at the high school.
That is amazing. I mean, I kind of knew that you were like, a music teacher, but I didn't know it was to this concept and depth, which is different than just band. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but what you're doing is really, I'm sure, opening doors and minds and hearts to music in so many different ways. You yourself are an original artist. Is that right?
Yeah, I've written original songs for a very long time.
And you have some that are recorded.
Mm-hmm.
You have some music that's recorded, correct?
I do, yeah. I've recorded in both under my own name and released things myself, but I also have recorded with an original band that I had a long time ago called Doxy, that I was in long before the Brat Pack. And then I've continued to just kind of write and record along with other people uh, ever since then. So I've never really stopped writing and recording.
Wait, okay, so let's talk about the band Doxy. When was this? Who was in it, if you can remember? And where did you play at?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So Doxy was a band that I actually started in high school with a friend, Kai Carlstrom. His uncle is Scott Carlstrom. Plays with Tons of Fun band, and has played with my dad actually since the '70s in their band Ginger, and and actually our grandfathers actually, my grandfather, LA's dad, and Kai's grandfather played in big bands when they were in their 20s. So Kai and I are kind of the third generation of Carlstrom Fredrickson that are playing together. So we formed that group in high school, and then in college, a couple new members joined, Eric Leslie and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name.
Well, you have been up since 2 a.m.
Yeah,
We'll just let everybody know that.
you'll have to, Colin, sorry. Yeah,
Colin.
Eric Leslie and Colin Leslie. Whew, sorry, yeah, you'll have to forgive me. My kids woke me up at 2 a.m. this morning. So, yeah, so Eric Leslie and Colin Leslie on drums and piano, respectively. And we played fairly regularly in the Champaign area, most of the time at Joe's Brewery on campus. We are kind of the house band there. We played every week and pulled in some pretty sizable crowds there, and kind of all over the state of Illinois though. And we recorded our own stuff, did a lot of things at Pogo Studios where we recorded original songs and
with Mark Rubel.
released that. Yeah, with Mark. Yep.
Yeah, Mark's fascinating. He's one of the most
Yeah.
fascinating people I know. And then you went from that. So like LA,
Yeah.
you were during this time in Drew's life when he's doing all of this. How old were you, Drew?
How what?
Uh,
How
I
old?
was, yeah, I was anywhere from
20,
15,
maybe?
15 to 22 around that time.
So what did you think of this, LA? Because I mean, you yourself were probably playing with were you playing with like Pork and the Vanna Ducks, or what were you doing during that time?
Oh boy, let's see. That might have been tons of fun still. I mean, at that time, because I've been playing with them for now 20 years. That's hard to believe. But I was just being proud Papa, Terry. That's what I was doing because Scott and I would go to watch them at Joe's Brewery and, a little bit of fish out of water because that's pretty much of a younger crowd there. But it was so
Yeah.
much fun to watch them play because they did a lot of original songs, but they did Billie Jean, they did all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun band, that's for sure. Not a tons of fun band, but a fun band.
Fun, not tons of fun, but fun.
Yeah.
Did so, Drew, LA. First of all, where did you gain your interest in music and your talent and your skills? I don't think I
Me?
asked you that on the last. Yeah.
Well, I like to say, my dad and mom were extremely talented in music. My mom was the church organist at First United Methodist Church for like 35 years, played over 1,500 weddings. My dad was a director of the School of Music at the University of Illinois. And then, Joni's, my wife's dad had a naval band. He played on naval ships in the Korean War area. He went to Great Lakes Naval Academy and all that. So there was music all around there. And then I like to say that it kind of skipped a generation with me, and then Drew got all the next big talent. But it's so I've been exposed to it all my life, and subsequently, same thing with Drew. And I
Well,
started
what?
playing piano real young, and then which was a great thing. Any drummer should have some piano in them first. And then I played in bands all the way junior high through high school, and I'll toot my own horn for a second. I was the principal timpanist in the All-State Orchestra in 1970. Thank you very much, which was kind
There you
of cool.
go. Kudos.
Matter of fact, this is a quick story. Drew's tuba professor at the University of Illinois was also in the All-State Orchestra in 1970. We were both living in a rooming house off campus, and I was playing the album of that, and he walked by. I didn't know who he was, and he said, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, "I was in the All-State Orchestra." And he goes, "So was I." I was playing
Oh my God.
yeah. So anyway, that's it's a small town, but yeah, Drew had a scholarship to. I'm going to brag on you a little bit, Drew. He had a choice of a number of schools to go to on tuba and trombone. He got a full ride scholarship to the U of I and was played trombone in the U of I jazz bands, and played Carnegie Hall on tuba, and we thought a full ride scholarship's kind of a pretty big deal, but two tubas cost, what was it, Drew, like $35,000?
Yeah, something like that,
Are
something
you are
wild.
you
I
really,
know.
are you being serious right now about that
Yeah,
price?
yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I sold one of them and bought a car years later.
Good, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You still have one. What do
Yeah.
you still have? The F2 is that?
Yeah. I still have the F tuba here. It's a
Yeah.
smaller one. But yeah, had a lot of really cool experiences. I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, I was a tuba performance major in
Did not
college
know that.
and I got a bachelor's degree in tuba performance and then a master's degree from Indiana University in tuba performance. And then went out and started teaching actually, and joined Teach for America. And they placed me in East Chicago, Indiana, teaching 5th and 6th grade English, which I knew nothing about. And
I would be horrified.
oh, it was pretty awful. I ended up actually leaving the Corps, and thinking I would never teach ever again. And then I needed money, so I started substitute teaching at Central High School, and really fell in love with that age group, the high school age range. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe it was just the fifth and sixth graders are crazy. So, I actually then took a teaching job as the director of music at a really small Catholic school on the south side of Chicago called Seton Academy. And then I was there for 3 years, and I figured if I wanted to make a career out of this, I needed to go get certified. And so I went back to school and got a master's degree in music education at U of I. And then that was while I was doing that master's degree in music education. That's when I was in the Brat Pack, where during those 3 years or so, 2-3 years. So, and then at the end of that, when I got the teaching job at Oak Park River Forest High School, that's when I left the Brat Pack. So, yeah, it's kind of my timeline.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about your timeline, so I'm glad that you included that. But you're so young to have done and accomplished so much. I mean,
No,
that's
I don't feel that young right now. I can tell you that.
Especially
But
if you got
that's because you got
couple
children,
years.
little
yeah,
children.
there's a lot more gray here and a lot less up here. So yeah.
But
You got
I
a
mean, yeah, but I mean, you don't. I'm sure that you don't miss that kind of the kind of like fast paced, loading, unloading, doing the whole performance. Because the Brat Pack, that's not a lazy bunch. When you guys performed, it was a show. I mean, it was a lot of movement and costumes and
Yeah. But in a lot of ways, in most ways, that was probably the most professional band that I've ever been a part of ever. It was really the only group that I've ever been a part of that we would show up to rehearsal. We would really only rehearse like once every 3 months, maybe. I mean, granted, we were gigging every Friday and Saturday night, but like we wouldn't rehearse, we wouldn't practice that often. But when we would, there would be a plan, and we would have songs that we were going to go through, and people showed up just ready to play. They knew their parts, they knew what they were going to do and how they were going to fit in. So when we went in, it wasn't really figuring out how does this part go? Oh, how does this thing go? Who's going to do that? I mean, everyone just came in knowing their stuff. So we would just run through the song and then go, yeah, I think that could work. I think that could be a lot of fun. So, and then it was a very professional setup, hit times, all of that. I mean, it was a science the way that Larry would set up. Larry and Josh and Brendan would all show up early, and they'd get the PA set up and the drum set up and kind of those bigger things, and then Jesse and Lynn and myself and Alex would all come later in a different van about an hour later, and we get all of our stuff set up. We'd have about an hour before we would hit every single time, and then we would just put on the show, and then we would tear down immediately. And it was a machine, and it made it a lot of fun. So as much gigging as we did, it never really felt like work, like a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I would say the hardest gig that we did, in my opinion, was when we would play Ribco, Rock Island Brewing Company, over in the Quad Cities, because that gig we would get home at like 6 a.m. and like it's like a 4-hour drive from Champaign. So that one was a little bit tough. But all the rest of the stuff was fine. And what made all of that so much better was just the camaraderie between all of us. We're really good friends. So and everyone in that group was just fun to hang out with. We gelled together really well. There weren't any personality issues or anything like that. There weren't any egos or anything like that either. So it was a really wonderful time that I cherish so much, and it taught me so much.
Yeah, because you'll never get that back, but the performance peak of you guys' shows was just, whew, I mean, it was energy, full on energy, entertainment, but all of the talent combined was just pretty phenomenal. A lot of fun. I mean, Brat Pack shows are just a blast, and I do remember. I think that's where I met you. I think that was the first time that I had met you was you were playing with the Brat Pack, and then I didn't even know the depth of your musical soul until conversations with your dad. And I was like, oh my God, like this is you have some really really deep, you know, you have a musical soul. I don't know how else to say that. And how much of an inspiration has your dad been?
Well, that's what that's what I was gonna say. I mean, musical soul is from musical genes, and my dad mentioned earlier about the talent skipping a generation, but that's just flat false. That's just not true. He's one of the best drummers that I've ever played with, and he's sat in a few times with Doxy, that with that group.
Oh my
We would do
gosh,
some
I wish I would have
recording.
seen that.
Yeah, and then the number of times that I've been able to join Tons of Fun band, there's just no. He's a drummer that I can not have to focus on time and not have to focus on, whether the rhythm is going to be there and the tempo is going to rush or drag. He's a metronome, and so.
That's a nice compliment. Thank you.
but more than that, I've always really I've valued his expertise because the life that he's lived and the people that he knows and just his musical experience has meant so much to me, and I value his input. So whenever I record anything or I'm doing anything, he's one of the first people that I show it to, and I value the fact that he doesn't hold back either, because I know he wants me to be the best that I can be, and he lets me know when it's good and he lets me know when it's not. And when something
That's
needs to
great.
change. And
Yeah. No, for sure
it's
that
really,
Terry,
yeah.
I have
So
a good story for you. For a while there, Polly was in Tons of Fun band, and we had Sam Hankins, who was our lead trumpet in the Tons of Fun band. And Sam, this is another one of those small town deals. Sam was actually in going to grad school at the U of I in music education, and he ended up by accident in one of my dad's advanced theory classes, but music theory. But my dad really liked Sam, and so Sam got a job as the band director at Edison Middle School. And when my dad go there, because Drew would be playing concerts and stuff, and one time after a concert, Sam said to my dad, "Oh, there's the man I want to be someday," which was kind of a cool thing because they were, professor and students and all that. So Sam is playing with Tons of Fun band, and then Drew would sometimes sub on trombone when Bones couldn't do it, or when Sam was in My Brother's Keeper, and Drew would play trombone with them. So Drew was like, "What do I call you? Are you like, Mr. Hankins, or do I call you Sam or what?" Because it was really kind of awkward, And Sam said, "Well, now we're gonna get together now. You just call me Sam." So that was fun.
it still feels weird. It still feels weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because LA, so many people, and so many people know everybody knows you as well. So how did those connections start? How did you develop those relationships?
First of all, it's a pretty small town, really. We've got a huge university, but outside of that, it's like 2 degrees of separation instead of 7. And it becomes more and more close knit. You know this, Terry, by CU bands and fans, that if you don't know somebody, they know somebody that you know. So, I've been enthralled by this music scene here. Mid '60s was just, that was the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five and Rolling Stones and the Beach Boys, and it was just a really, really exciting time. We've talked about that before, that music was like the main outlet. There was no video games or streaming or, all the multiple choices we have now. So that was an incredible time. And everybody knows what this community did music wise. which is why Home Grown KIO is so successful, you know. But by that token, you know, you get to know, it becomes a tight knit community. We talked about that before. The bands were competitors, but they also supported each other. So, and you know, you've been around a while now, and you get to know everybody, and that's kind of what happened. That's why we like Home Grown KIO. That's why I think, you know, Lou Henson said once, you know, it's not that he was such a fantastic coach. He was downplaying himself, because he really is a good coach, but he'd been coaching a long time too. And he started to get some victories together when you coach for a long time. That's kind of the same thing in the music business. You get to start knowing everybody, you know, so that's part of osmosis or something around here. But I'm sure you experience that. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that know you, but you don't really know them, you know?
Right.
But it's a small town, you know, and you just, after a while, you started playing gigs with just about everybody, you know. But I appreciate you saying that. I guess it's just I'm really now excited about the radio show, because that's opened up a whole new avenue of people reconnecting, you know. And music has, I'm going to go off on my little dog and pony show on you right now here, but music has a way of stimulating good memories, you know. Radio programming can be built around that, but everybody remembers the kind of music they were listening to when they got their driver's license or went on their first dates and all that sort of thing. And that's an proven scientific thing with people's brains and emotions. So that kind of connectivity I kind of find fascinating. And anybody that enjoys music knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the other thing about, you know, music too, is you can still play when you're my age. I have a hard time playing football now, you know, or running. You know, I used to say I'd jog to the car. I don't even want to do that anymore.
So you got to proceed very cautiously now.
Or like Bruce Hall says, but I can still rock. You know?
Yeah, and that being said, that's why Homegrown WKIO, Homegrown KIO, is so important, and people are loving it. People are finding out about it and tuning in and loving it, and because it, like in the group, that's one reason that we have the group, is so that people can express how they feel about the show or a song or something. They're like, you know, they start commenting, you know, oh, I remember this, and da 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 da. And that is so important. And your age, and I'm not going to say how old you are, but you and I are old, and that I do love the fact that on CU Bands and Bands, our greatest followers are from 45 to 70. And
right, you're following those stats, right?
Yeah, I know. Saying, you know, so that being said, so you answered a question actually, because I was going to ask you if there's any other part of music that you would like to be involved in outside of playing music and creating, because you do fundraisers, you did the Christmas program at Virginia Theater, and you've been involved in a lot of really cool things. So I think this media outlet of Homegrown KIO is probably just another portion that you're glad to be a part of.
Part of things. I was just at Joe DeLuce's retirement party at the Virginia Theater. He just retired as executive director of Champaign Park District years ago. And this shows how small a town it is again. Sam Hankins would have a concert in the park thing that he would do at Clark Park in the spring every year for his Edison band program. And I was there, you know, hawking pizza and lemonade and stuff as a band parent. And Joe was there. And he said, he came from the tri-state area up around Pittsburgh, and there was a guy there, B.E. Taylor, that would always sell out Heinz Hall, like Heinz ketchup. It was an old theater that the Pittsburgh Symphony plays in now. They fixed it all up, and he did a Christmas show, and Joe said, I'd really like to have that, here, but I can't bring B.E. Taylor here because I'd be risking taxpayer dollars, and nobody really knows who he is, even though he was excellent, really, really good. And he said, would you guys be interested in doing that? And I said, yeah, sure. So because of that conversation at a Edison band concert in Clark Park, we ended up doing 11 of those things. And that was, every time you lead up to the concert, it's a pain in the butt, because everybody's volunteering and trying to get everybody on the same page. But afterwards, when they plug in the tree for the DSC Tree of Hope campaign, that's where all the money went. And you could see a visual representation of your efforts. It was awesome. And I just told Joe last Friday that, because of that conversation, we donated somewhere over $30,000 to that Tree of Hope campaign over the years, which was also a nice thing, because my daughter came home years ago when she was in 2nd grade and said, we have to start saving cans because we're trying to buy a $50 light bulb, and I said, what is this all about? But that was gratifying back. Okay. And I know you appreciated it and loved your photographs of that show, but it was gratifying. And I have to give Drew a lot of props on this, because he wrote out all of the arrangements for all of the brass tunes on every song we ever played. Those were all Drew's horn arrangements. And I wouldn't deal with that. Not only did he sing a lot of the songs in that too, but every horn line that was played in those things was something Drew put down on paper. So it's one of those things. I've been able to do those shows without Drew. So
Yeah,
we even had Drew's wife's family involved in those shows. Got them down from Chicago, but it was a family affair, wasn't it, Drew?
It was a family affair. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
In fact, Drew's playing in a band now with his wife's brother, and they're really good. They're called Illinois Joy. Check that out, Terry. Illinois Joy, and they do all original. They do all original tunes, and it's a lot of fun. And I didn't even know Drew could do this, but he's playing bass guitar in this thing now too. So he's not playing tuba, he's not playing trombone, he's not playing keyboards, he's not playing guitar. He's playing bass. But you'll like it, Illinois Joy.
What did you pick trombone?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Why did you pick the trombone to play, or to learn?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I didn't. I wanted to play the drums, and in 5th grade when they were doing instrument choices, and I said I wanted to play the drums, and they said you need to have at least 2 years of piano before you can pick up the drums, which they only do that because they don't want everyone to pick the drums. I guess everyone will pick the drums then.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't have that. So then my next choice was trumpet, and they gave me a trumpet mouthpiece to try to buzz on, and I didn't get a buzz right away. And so then they said, yeah, I think your lips are too big for a trumpet mouthpiece. I think you try a trombone mouthpiece. Years later, now that I'm a band director and I know the game, I know they just needed more trombone players to fill out the band. So they just kind of worked it. And then so I started off, playing trombone. I came home 5th grade. I'm gonna play trombone, and then and started then. And then in 6th grade at Edison with Sam Hankins, we were going to Orlando, Florida. That was the first time that he ever took the band down there. And at that time he had a 6th grade band and a 7th and 8th grade combined concert band. And neither the 7th grade tuba player nor the 8th grade tuba player could go to Florida. So he said, he came to the 6th grade band. He said, does anyone want to switch to learn how to play the tuba? And no one raised their hand. So I'm always the go-getter. So I was always like, all right, I'll do it. And so he said, all right, great. So come in and I'll have the 8th grader show you how to play tuba. And so I would come in early before school. And the 8th grader came in the very first day, and he said, he pulled out this book and he pointed at this note and he said, all right, this note is a B flat and it sounds like this, bah. And this note is an F and it sounds like this, bah. All right, have fun, bye. And then he left. And so I basically like taught myself how to play tuba in a practice room in the old band room of Edison Middle School that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, so that's how I took off. So then when I played those all the way through middle school and high school in different capacities, and I went everywhere with those actually. And then when it came time for schooling, yeah, I was offered the scholarship on tuba. So I was offered some money other places too on trombone, but it was more money was given to me on tuba. So tuba was the route that I went.
Let me brag on Drew again, Terry. Terry, he was in the all-state honors bands on both trombone and tuba. Actually, we're all-state orchestra, I guess, on tuba, and all-state jazz band, honors band on trombone. So while I did it, and my dad did it also, an all-state thing in Pennsylvania. That's 3 in a row right there. And then that story about you in the 6th grade thing, the Edison band went down to Orlando and became the grand champions that weekend, beating out a bunch of high school bands too. So that was kind of thrilling for a bunch of little kids.
Yeah.
I remember you called me and your voice was shot. You were yelling so much over excitement.
Yeah, it was an exciting time for sure.
So are you both, I'll ask you, both of you the same question, you can answer individually. Are you both where you wanted to be? And from, if you look back at your past to your goals and what your aim was, or if you even had an aim, are you happy and satisfied and content with where you are now?
Wow, what a loaded question that is.
That's a heavy one. Yeah. All right, Dad. After you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, life's about choices, right, Terry? And let me just say, I used to say the nightlife ain't no good life. It can be a lot of fun, but the older you get, the harder it is to come back from that, right? And it's interesting. I guess I'm a product of my environment. My dad had that decision to make too before he went to college, and my father-in-law had that decision to make too before he went back to school on the GI Bill. And I did too. You get to a point where you want to have a family, and it's pretty hard to do that, be a working musician. I don't think it's selfish. Let me clarify that. I don't think it's selfish to be a musician, but I think it's a bit selfless. It's really hard to coordinate relationships with the music career. Okay, a lot of people do it. But I was able to still play, and so I get my yayas out that way with Tons of Fun band and American-made band and all that stuff that I could still play. And Drew I'll let him talk about that, but I satisfied. When I went back to school, I got a degree and bachelor's degree in business administration, and I finished up my music degree. And 204 hours later, thank you very much, when you only need 120. But I figured, how do I get those together? And radio kind of made sense. So that's what I did. I went into radio and developed relationship with clients and advertising, and always being around the music end of things. And that satisfied me. Plus, it gave me a lot of freedom. I wasn't stuck to a desk with a radio career, and I could still play. So regrets, no. Regrets, I don't have any. I feel pretty rewarded.
With where you're at now, and your kids are raised, you've got grandchildren, and and the kind of the fact that you got yourself into that, which I think is fantastic, instead of just stopping music and I'm just going to focus on this, which is fine. Whatever anybody decides to do for their own life is perfectly whatever. But I like the fact that you got yourself into this position that you are now, to be able to do what you're doing on KIO, and to be able to, like again, you brought up, you did those Christmas programs, which the whole entire community absolutely look forward to and love. And Drew was a great part of that too. You know, being there with you and performing, and just beautiful, Drew, by the way. Your songs, your music, everything is just tremendous. But that's kind of what I wanted to know. You being older, it gets a little tougher on us to be out and to be out late night. And then Drew, you having a family now, you know, you got married, you have children, and you're teaching and all that kind of your whole schedule and hours and everything, and you know, being up till 2 a.m. last night, yeah, because of your babies, you know, that happens. So it makes it tough to, you know, to do the whole kind of gigging kind of a sense.
Well, Drew thought there was only one 2 a.m. and that was getting home from gigs, and now he's finding out there's another one when his kids wake him up at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that those two different 2 a.m.s aren't married together anymore. Yeah, and you know what I would say is, it's really an exciting time to be a musician, a young musician right now, because what was prohibitive with technology before is no longer prohibitive. I mean, you can have, literally, this has happened. You can have people who produce something out of their bedroom on a laptop win a Grammy from that. You don't have to book huge studio time in order to do that. You don't have to raise gobs of money to do that. You don't have to sign to a label to do that. Social media has allowed many artists to just sidestep all of those barriers that existed in music up until, I don't know, the last 15 or so years. And in the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years, it's gotten, I mean, the game has completely changed. It's amazing what people can do. So I feel privileged in that the role that I'm in now, I still get to work in music, and I work with kids who have gobs of talent, and I'm able to help shape them to monetize and kind of, you know, brand themselves. It's a little bit of a business venture then as well, because you can no longer just expect to have really good songs only and then expect them to be out there and then people are going to pick them up. I mean, people might, but I heard a statistic that there's something like 60,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day.
Wow.
So a good song isn't enough.
Mm.
So how do you market yourself? How do you leverage social media? How do you, you know, go more grassroots with things? And also, you know, I think the days of the Beatles and Michael Jackson and kind of these monolithic, everyone is going to listen to this group, they're going to be this amazing powerhouse supergroup, I think those days have gone by. I think music is now so segmented and into subgenres that it's a little bit freeing, because you don't have to be this world dominating artist anymore. Because if you can get 100 people to subscribe to you on Patreon every single month, you're now making a good amount of money. If you're able to come up with a YouTube channel that's just showing all the things that you're also learning right then and there, then you can, I know people who brought in almost $300,000 through YouTube channels last year. I mean, it's just, the whole game has changed so much. So the fact that I get to work in that realm in music now, and I don't have to be out gigging unless I want to, and I feel very lucky to do that. It's funny, my wife and I were just talking about this, if I had any, you know, regrets or any kind of like choices or anything that I would change. And my answer to her was no, because then I wouldn't be where I am. If I had gone a different route and pursued things differently, then I wouldn't be married. I wouldn't have my 2 kids. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have all that stuff, and I wouldn't have this life that I'm currently in right now. So no, I don't regret anything. I wouldn't change anything.
Terry, I've got Drew. Tell Terry about part of the what you just described was helping kids figure out how they can get their thoughts and ideas out into the world now with streaming channels. Tell her specifically about the young girl who wrote a song.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been working with this young girl at the high school for a couple of years now, but this year, one of the songs that she recorded with me and I helped produce with her, we submitted for the Illinois Music Educators Association, ILMEA, All-State. They now have a songwriting and a remix category at the state level, and she took first place. And out of like hundreds, out of like over 400 submissions or something like that, she took first place in that. And this is a girl who, during the pandemic, was not really able to even attend class for choir because she it was a single parent household, and she was responsible for getting her siblings to school and on their Zoom calls and all of that. So a girl who came from a really hard background and home life, and here she is now, she's going to be presenting in Peoria at All-State for all these people and all these educators everywhere. And like, these doors are going to be opened up to her now. So it's really amazing. In addition to that, she just loves the song. It's something she created and she can put out. We actually had the song played over the speakers at the high school as our 1 minute countdown bell for in between classes. And so it's just cool. There's a lot of really cool things that are happening.
I almost like have tears because everything that you said, it was kind of an eye opener a little bit for me, because we talk about the digital world and social media and music and platforms that are conducive to music and platforms that are not conducive to music at all. Facebook being one of those. I mean, Facebook is a good place to be branded, to have a brand and all that kind of stuff and gather some followers, but it's not really a good place to present your music. Because it's so people's attention span is like that. But I think that's what you're doing and what you're teaching is, I love the level that it's at. That it's not the traditional, just, we're going to teach you, this and that, band, kind of thing. But it's crucial. I think it's so crucial. I think it's so wonderful that you're doing that. I absolutely love it. I myself just retained a whole lot of knowledge there.
No, Terry, I'm sorry, real quick here. Putting out a CD is wonderful, but those days really are kind of past. You don't sell CDs out of the trunk of your car anymore. And I want to give props to Mark Rubel again. You've interviewed him, and you know how wonderful he is. And he's really a mentor for Drew. He's helped Drew quite a bit in that pathway, hasn't he, Drew?
He has, yeah. I was going to say one of the things that Mark has really helped me out with, because he runs the Blackbird Academy down in Nashville at Blackbird Studios, one of like the world's premier recording studios, multi-million-dollar studio. And so when I contact him, because I'll have questions about this, and parents will ask me about viable career paths and all that, and he's really been a great guiding force for me in this realm. But he's also opened my eyes up to the fact that if you learn some basic fundamentals about audio engineering, then the job career landscape becomes almost limitless because of how all of us experience music. We all experience music in some form that has passed through the hands, through some technology that's passed through the hands of an audio engineer. Somebody designed these AirPods that I'm talking with. Somebody designed the speakers on your TV. Somebody designed, the microphone that people talk into at podiums and all that, and podcasting. And so it's just the job landscape is almost endless, and which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So so we should probably be wrapping up. I know there's on a schedule here, but I do want to say that it's truly been remarkable podcast with both of you. I can tell that there's so much love. I know your father and son, that there's so much love and respect that you have for one another, and admiration that's really very delightful to see. I can visually see that on the video, but you won't be able to on the podcast. But I know you can hear it in their voices and the way they speak about one another. Genuine musical souls right here that I got to spend some time with, and I appreciate it so much. I think I know your dad has been your inspiration, and his dad has been both of your inspiration. And so what a great generational thing that you're passing on, and hopefully this, be for your kids too, Drew. And it's absolutely fantastic to see you. And is that your?
Yeah, it's great to see you too. Speaking of, here's the
Oh
this
my
is
goodness.
my little boy. Popped in here at the very.
He just had a video today, as a matter of fact.
It's like right on cue. Yeah, that's Grandpa
Hi, Bennett,
right there.
as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Before I go, where can we hear your music? Where can we hear your? I know you've sent me a few of your songs. I've listened to them, and your dad, I think, has sent me some links that I'm going to add onto this podcast. But is there anywhere we can go specifically?
Yeah. So like my dad mentioned, I'm playing in a new group called Illinois Joy. And if you just go to YouTube and search out Illinois Joy, we have a song out right now called Yours to Lose. We got a music video out for it. And yeah, you can hear my kid knocking at the door probably too, my daughter. So yeah, Illinois Joy. And if you go to YouTube, you can find our single. It's called Yours to Lose. And we're in the middle of recording and putting the finishing touches on an EP right now. That should be out very, very soon.
Is that your little girl?
Yes. Vera.
Okay, in LA,
So,
once again,
how about we just send you a bunch of links, okay, Terry?
send me some links, and we'll definitely see you on Homegrown and hear you on Home Grown KIO Sundays at 7 p.m.
Yep. Powered by CU Bands and Fans.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hang in
Thank
there,
you,
folks.
Terry.
This is a lot of fun.
It is
Yeah,
good.
thanks.